And welcome to a Tuesday night to another episode of the Anarchy Fantasy Football Podcast. And you know what? There's only two of us. One loser, one winner. And I don't know what we're going to have next week then. Obviously, there will only be one winner left. I had to come on because I start the show, but we have one of the Super Bowl appearance people here tonight, Mr. Magel. But thanks for joining us. We'll see how long this lasts and see if anyone pops on. But it's been a fun run. It's hard to believe now we're week 16 of doing this podcast, let alone doing, playing 16 weeks of fantasy. And you're in the Super Bowl. This is your first Super Bowl appearance, correct?
Yes. It's my third year. I made the playoffs the first year and lost. And last year I had a couple devastating players go out. And this year's been very nice for me.
Isn't it fun when the team just comes together, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's frustrating, too, because as competitive as our league is, there was no week off.
I've
had some weeks that I should have just smoked everybody and didn't happen. So,
right. And, to tell people out there that are listening, I was your competition this week and I didn't give you much. No, actually it was close.
Yeah, you did.
The first set of games, because I only had a couple people playing and they went off. My first three or four went off and you were playing almost all your guys at 1 o'clock. And unfortunately, every one of your guys went off also, which you got to love that. When every single player, hits their projection and above, and you just keep seeing the points go up and up and up. And you're like, you realize you made all the right decisions. It's a good feeling at 4 o'clock on a Sunday that, at 4 o'clock, did you still have confidence at 4?
Yes and no. I mean, you got Drew Brees, but then when you sit down and actually figure it out, I mean, he would have had to have.
Well, that would have been Monday. At 4 o'clock, I still had Fournette. I still had Henry.
Oh yeah, I was worried at that point. Yes.
Yeah, I mean
at that point, yes, I was worried.
But at 1 o'clock, I knew I was in trouble. When the 4 o'clock games were starting, I realized shit. He hit on everybody.
Yeah. And
all my 1 o'clock guys hit, but I knew I couldn't afford one person, not to hit. I think I still had my defense at 4 to go. I think you had your,
and that was all I had. Yeah,
you only had the defense. So
I had Jared Cook, but that if Breeze threw to him, that helped me too. So
right, but I knew I just couldn't afford to have anything go wrong, and then obviously it did. My two anchors for most of the season was Henry and Fournette, and I can't say, I don't like to say players let me down. It's fantasy. They did their job as much as they could, and I think you even typed in our chat room when I knew I was in trouble when Derrick Henry had the ball and they were down on like the 2-yard line and he ran it in and got to like the one. Line. I thought he was in and they said no. And I'm like, oh, okay, they'll give it to him the next time. Well, the next time they ran some stupid fake that didn't work. I'm like, oh, okay, he still got a shot. Then they got a penalty and got put back on like 5 yards back. And I thought, okay, now he'll get a chance.
I was cheering. Yeah, I was happy.
They did some other damn fake, and then the quarterback was going to run it in and just threw a little pass. I'm like, shit. I knew right then because I kind of needed Derrick Henry to have a touchdown. And at that point, I still thought he'd get me 100 yards because he had a lot of yards at that point. And then the game was just about, like I said, almost nothing happened after that point. And then Fournette obviously didn't do anything. But just to let people know out there, I scored 209. Not a bad week. I think we would always take a 200 or plus week. And you scored 241. I mean,
well, and honestly, I mean, I could have subbed in.
Oh, right.
You half of my bench, and my bench still did phenomenal.
Well, you had Perriman because you asked me and Lou the question.
Oh God, if I would have started Perriman, Jesus, I would have scored 270.
Lou, I do ask you this because Lou recommended Perriman because he liked him, And
so I know,
but
and I thought you would too.
But during the show, I kind of said, okay, I'm not going to say anything because I'm playing this guy. So I let Lou just say his piece. And then I looked later and realized, well, you didn't switch. And it was McLaren or Perriman. And Perriman came out and I think the first four plays
went off.
First four plays, he had like 2 catches and 65 yards and a touchdown already. He had like 20 some points in like,
I was sweating
5 minutes. And I thought, because I even typed to you, in there.
I saw it. And then your comment about 5 minutes later was golden too, when you said, okay, maybe a good move.
Never mind.
Because McLaurin went off too.
Then went off and had like 2 catches for another. So obviously, which as a fantasy player manager, when you're setting your lineup, when you never want to lose because you did something stupid or didn't play the right guy.
But see, here's the thing. And it's funny that you bring this up because I actually kind of want to bring this up. I've listened to you guys on the podcast, and honestly, most of the time I've made a game time decision within 5 to 10 minutes of the game. I've changed them, and it was what I thought I should have done too. I agreed with you guys, and I did it, and it screwed me. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to let it go this week. I don't think that I should, but
and it worked out.
Let's just go with it.
And either way, in this case, right? In this case, it would have worked out either way.
Oh, it would have worked out huge.
Yeah. But and I do that too. Unfortunately, I have to do a show on Sundays. When you do a sit start, you have to do it. And I talk myself. I have over the years, I'd say my Sunday morning moves cost me more than they make me. Does that make sense? Meaning, a lot of times those Sunday morning moves that you make for the last minute are because of weather or weird issues and things that pop up, and then you realize that didn't matter anyway, and you screwed up. But at the same time, you like to have more people's opinion, and then when you think you're doing the right thing, it makes it hard.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah, go ahead. Take care of that. And while you're doing that, we have a question on Facebook. MathQuest, pick 2 receivers: Lockett, Cooper, Parker, and Sutton. Again, I haven't looked a whole lot since in this league. And it's a standard. So you're looking for touchdowns, MathQuest. You need 2. I'm not, Sutton's to me is 2 up and down. So it would be Lockett, Cooper, or Parker. Lockett was back on track. Let me see. Lockett. I didn't even notice I don't have Lockett anywhere. So who's Lockett play this week? Seattle plays the Cardinals. Definitely I'm playing Lockett because the Cardinals aren't that great at defense for that. The Cowboys are in a must-win situation, and the Cowboys, who do they have? The Cowboys, and where do I got? Cowboys have the Eagles. I'm probably
big division game.
Yep. And the Dolphins, let me see who Parker's up against. The Dolphins, they have the Bengals. All right. I'm playing based on matchup, and
Parker's going to play.
Playing Lockett and Parker.
Agreed.
They're both at home. They both, I think have great matchups. And I'm not saying Sutton's not a great player. He's also at home, and the Lions are not a bad matchup, but he's still so up and down with the rookie quarterback. I think I'd go Lockett and Parker. And if this is for the Super Bowl, you know what? Don't take my advice. Make your own decision. I'll write the question down, and maybe Sunday morning, me and Lou. But do keep track. MathQuest. Again, there's no Thursday night game, but there are 3 Saturday games this year. So we used to always have 2, but we have a third. And Magel will remind you the same. Magel, remember there are 3 Saturday games this week, so your lineups pretty much have to be set.
Yeah.
By Saturday, there's no Thursday game. Normally we get 2 Saturdays. This is a first that they've done 3 on a Saturday. So, unfortunately, if you have players that are hurt or anything like that, you might have to make some early decisions on who to play there. And again, I'm a sports, I'm a sports guy, and I gave you a little tip of the week last week, even though we were up against each other. You know what? And I'll pay attention if I'm in leagues with people I don't know. If I see whenever I set my lineup, I put all my players in I'm going to play. Then I look at my flex. If my flex a running back, I look at the other two running backs and I decide, and whoever's playing the latest game, I've switched to my flex. If my flex is a wide receiver, I look at my wide receivers, and whoever is the latest game, I put that wide receiver in my flex. That way, if someone gets injured or things happen, you have someone. It's obviously if you have to move someone out of the flex, then you have options to either now throw in another running back or wide receiver or mix and match them. Where if you play your flex on a Thursday night, and then one of your running backs or wide receivers get hurt, now you're stuck having to play a wide receiver or running back in that spot. Where if your flex is always open, you have the ability to move that guy back up to the running back spot and then put a wide receiver in or something like that. So that's just the tip of the week there, Magel.
Well, that was one of those rookie things that when you did send that, I was like, oh, that's a very good idea.
And not just playoffs, but every week you just kind of want to always set your flex as a late player, so that if something happens, you have an extra option. Again, the two players you're dealing with might not be the ones who get hurt, but if your third wide receiver gets hurt and you have a wide receiver in your flex, you can move him there, get the guy out that's hurt, and now you can decide, okay, what's my best running back or what's my best wide receiver, or hell, even a tight end if you want to stick there, and you have flexibility. Where if you'd have played him at on Thursday and then someone gets hurt, you're stuck with that one spot's all you can do. So
and that's one thing I never, honestly, and like you said, it's always a learning thing with this.
Sure.
And that was a tip. I'm like, wow, I never even thought about that. And that's
it's back to, it's a game, and you can learn a game. You can learn strategy.
Oh, yeah.
You can learn tips and tricks. And
I've learned more this year and studied more this year than I have in the last 2 years. And that's why I'm loving it, because I'm more back into it, and I absolutely love it.
Well, that's what I find with most people who get into fantasy originally. When they first get into it, they just think it's picking some players, and then you wait till Sunday night and you're done. And I think a lot of people do that for a week or two or a season or two before they finally start paying attention and going, you know what, maybe there's more to this than I thought. I mean, it's a game, and that's what I enjoy. It's strategy I enjoy, and it's something you can learn and get better at. And you can study and learn. Again, obviously, the last thing is you can learn more about other players than the people you're up against. I mean, back to, I think we talked about this on the podcast before too. You also notice the rookies on draft day, especially because we draft in person. When people in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th round are picking defenses, it's usually because they've run out of players they know. It's not that they want that defense. It's that they've already run out of players. They just don't know anybody. Where, you got to spend time studying those late round guys, because that's when the decisions sometimes can make a difference. Like I said, your team's full of a few young rookies and, some young players. And those are the picks in this case, because we're a keeper league, can win you a couple of seasons in a row. Where I'm sorry, a defense won't. I mean, I don't even draft defenses. I'll find one. This year I ended up with the 49ers, the second best defense in the league. I didn't draft them. I got them later, so, and most people don't pay attention, don't even know. The number one defense in fantasy the next year is never hardly. I think they go back like 10 years in a row. 10 years in a row, the team that finished number one defense,
they're not even close.
Won't be close the next year. I mean, because they change so much, schemes change. It's just, so when you draft the Bears in the 5th round or Minnesota or one of these teams, you think you might get an okay defense, but then you're stuck with them all year because you drafted them too early. I'd much rather keep that up, a flexible spot.
And that's the thing with me. I mean, when I was younger, loved pro football. I could name every quarterback on every team. I could name every running back, and then I kind of lost interest in it, and I went to the college game, which I love college football. Right. Absolutely love it. And I think that helped me a lot this year, paid a lot more attention to it, and got more into back into the pro game, because I was just like, I don't really have a favorite pro team, a couple of years ago. And now it's when I drafted last year, it was, I know who's coming in. That's the thing that later rounds, throw some of these guys in, not the Saquon Barkley or, this or that, but some of these guys that have done well in the combine. And these are the guys that are going to surprise you. And I got really lucky this year. I got a couple of that.
Yeah, a couple young guys. Now, that being said, let's just go. I mean, obviously, projections. Anyone listens to any of my shows, I'm not a projections guy. It's just a way for ESPN to get you to keep looking.
Yeah.
And again, I was projected to beat you, but it doesn't work that way. You have to play. And but
first three games I lost this when we started. I was projected 20 points above everybody and still lost.
Well, the big thing is Brody, he has Watson and Prescott, his two quarterbacks. They have pretty good matchups. The key to his team right now is, he has Cook, who the more I heard today, I don't think Cook's going to play. So that would obviously be a big, benefit. Now, he had James White on his bench last week, who scored him 15 points. Again, he's one of those you never know, because he's a running back for the Patriots. But he has Eckler, who's been doing well. He's had Waller, decent tight end. Landry,
Waller's been killing it.
Rocket, who we already talked about. DeAndre Hopkins. So his teams, again, both of you, when I look at it, are pretty good teams all the way up and down. Now, we haven't made any moves yet, so I don't know what he's going to do, if he's keeping Seattle with his defense or anything like that.
I'm going to have to pick a defense up. This
time of year, you have to go with the best matchup.
I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to pick up. I'm obviously not sticking with the Browns. I mean, they cost me -4 last week, and there's better matchups. It's just I'm trying to figure out which one of the three is better.
Right. And, when it comes to your team, do you have any injury issues? I didn't see anything coming out of the end of the year, into the
Godwin.
You lost Godwin.
He's probably not going to play. That's going to hurt, but I've already got him out of my lineup. So
right, but he still got you 20 points. You gotta love when they get you 20 and then get hurt versus a couple weeks ago when I had Thielen in and he didn't get me anything.
Right, the first round of the playoffs, Cook and somebody else went out and they got 40 points before they went out in the second quarter.
And I see you have.
I was real happy.
You do have Perriman in there again. You have Parker. Yeah. Parker's got a little, it's the Bengals. The Bengals actually have been a little tougher lately, but I think they're out of it. They're done. I don't think they're going to do a whole lot. McLaren again. Bell, who just, he doesn't do great, but he still gets you 15 points every damn week.
He gets a consistency.
But obviously, the last few weeks, McCaffrey and Winston have been your two. And then obviously this last week, Chris Carson. Big weeks.
Yeah. And he's got a good matchup this week. So,
right. So you're I think it's going to be fun to watch. I've got 2 other Super Bowls to watch, so I'll be watching other players. And then one of them, I have Winston, so I'll be rooting for Winston. I don't have McCaffrey anywhere. I have Parker on a few teams. I have Perriman on a team. I don't have Chris Carson. Who was your number 1 draft pick this week? Did you get McCaffrey? Was he your number 1 pick?
Yeah.
So that's who you build around. And then who'd you come back with? When Carson was probably a 3rd round pick for you?
Carson would have been.
I'll look it up here. Yeah, you got him in the 3rd.
Yeah.
So who was your 2nd pick? Because Bell you traded.
Bell was traded,
from a trade. Winston, you wouldn't have got it. Who did you trade? Who did you trade to get Bell?
Diggs and Sonny Michel.
All right. Oh, yeah, that didn't hurt you too much. Sonny
Michel. No, that didn't hurt me at all. I mean, Sonny Michel was anywhere from 5 to 15 points, and right. Diggs, I just wasn't playing at the time because I didn't really need him. I had a stable receiver, so
right. So that works out.
And he's been up and down all year, so.
And then you had Calvin Ridley, who did pretty good for you for most of the season until he got hurt. was good. So you're feeling good going into this week then, going against, I know we're going to hear it, the 3-time Super Bowl appearance.
Hopefully that's the name that that's gonna stick with him.
Not
till next year.
1-time Super Bowl winner. I know he was already last night at basketball wanting to sign autographs and about his team being a dynasty.
No, he was sending me texts. He was wanting me to play so that he could talk shit to me, and I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to talk shit about it until I see what my team's doing. Then we'll go there. But
no, I tried to get you to talk. I tried to get you during the game.
I know
because we've had that conversation. I don't care. I don't think I'm not I'm not going to jinx anything. If it happens, it happens. But you would not take the case. You just, I know you had to work. Me and you have played two good. I think
our best games have been when it snowed.
Yeah. They've been pretty good games. So we had
our one was scored by what, or I won by less than a point, or it was 1 point or less than a point.
You beat me by 1.6 or something.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So that was that. And I think the way the season's going to end, you'll end up being the number 1 scorer, and I'll be the number 2 scorer. So we had the 2 best teams. I don't care what Brody says. Brody got lucky.
Well, and we're the only 2 on the podcast, so we are the best 2 players. So
no shit. So
I don't feel bad talking shit now because nobody else is on the podcast. So I'll talk a little shit.
Well, there's nothing wrong. All right, you can talk shit. It's Brody. You know what? I mean, did he at least, any side bet, like, if he loses, he's got to pay double rent or something?
That's kind of why I was hoping he'd be on, because I kind of wanted to talk a little shit. But
you are his landlord. We don't even talk about that. I would think, something, should happen here if he.
Tonight, I'd kind of like to. I don't know. It's just the Super Bowl privilege or whatever. I'd like to talk a little shit, but if he's going to be a big puss about it, then
and not show up, I'm sure he would say it's something much more important. Which reminds me, I'll just tell you now, no one else on the podcast cares because no one's here. Probably no one listening now but we are still going to play basketball next Monday. We had enough people said they would show.
Yeah, I'll be there.
We normally don't play the week of Christmas or New Year's, but everyone said, hey, it's a Monday. We got nothing else to do. Let's play. So now, guess who said they wouldn't be there? Same person who's not here tonight.
Brody. Yeah. He's
got some obligation next Monday. I'm like, it's basketball. How can you have an obligation?
Oh.
He is a big wimp. But, don't forget, waivers are tonight.
Yeah.
Other than keepers, there's no reason to, if you're not going to start them, you might as well, but like I said, I've looked at both teams. There's not a whole lot, usually I'll look for a weakness and I'll try to block them. I mean, obviously, like a weakness at tight, like me, I picked up, I don't know if you noticed, I picked up like 3 or 4 tight ends last week because you had Cook and I, up till Sunday, we weren't 100% sure if he was playing or not. So I picked up tight ends so that you couldn't. Yeah. I think the best tight end you could have picked up Sunday, if they'd have come out and said he wasn't going to play, you could have got like Tyler Eifert or something like that because I had picked up like 3 or 4. I'll do that shit in the playoffs.
I don't know. Right now I'm with Jameis Winston. I'm kind of steering more toward receivers.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see.
I just don't see a lot. Neither of your teams have, other than he has Cook hurt. And
if he is hurt, I mean, he'll probably play.
What they said, the problem is, if I was in the Super Bowl, I'd have to know 100% that he's playing.
Oh yeah, same thing. Likewise with me with Godwin. Right, Godwin scares me possibly being out because I'd like to actually replace Godwin with Bell.
Yeah,
or I mean, I said it the wrong way, but. Take Bell out. Right, hang on. I got to go freaking do something. I'll be back.
But I know what he's talking about, at some point. But when you're getting in the playoffs, you just sometimes have to do things. And, you pick up, there's, like I said, we are a keeper league, so you can't just drop certain people. But, you do have to, if another guy needs people, or it's tight end week or quarterback issue, then obviously you pick up a couple, put them on your bench so they can't have them. I mean, that's just smart playoff strategy. because if you're not keeping them and you're not playing them next week in the Super Bowl, they're just not worth having. I mean, you just have no options but to drop them and play defense, which is another area. If the guy's got a defense that's weak and you think he's going to pick up defenses, pick up 2 or 3, make him have to make a harder choice when it comes to the defenses. So check your opponent out there, check his lineup, see who's hurt, see who's questionable. Always look at tight ends and defenses first, because those are the easiest spots to block. Because by now, if you're in the Super Bowl, you probably have a bench guy or 2 that can fill in if you need to, or the handcuff. And in this case, Brody does not have any other Minnesota running back. So, and that is a Monday night game, which is kind of important for Brody, because Cook plays on Monday night. It's one of those things where you have to make that decision ahead of time if you're going to play him or not, because if at the last minute they say he's not playing and you don't have someone else playing on Monday night, you take a 0 there. Now, so that's important. Now, Brody's not here and he doesn't listen because he's not that smart on how to listen to a podcast. But it's back to here, because me and you already talked about it off the air. He has Dalvin Cook still in his lineup, which maybe that's fine, but Dalvin Cook plays on Monday. So to me, at worst, you put him in your flex so you have more options if you have to pull him out at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And you go from there. Now, it also says Dak Prescott is questionable, but I think he's been questionable the last few weeks. So I don't think he's going to be.
It's the same thing with Jameis Winston. He's been questionable for 2 weeks.
And the Cowboys are in a must win. I mean, that's a playoff game. The Cowboys versus the Eagles. That wins is in.
See, and that's what scares me. I mean, I'm almost thinking of pulling Wentz and putting somebody else in, just because. But I don't know. Lately, last 2 weeks, he's actually been scoring good. But before that, he was killing me.
Well, then, okay. Like I said, since no one's listening, we'll look here. What quarterbacks are available? Have you even looked? Well, then that's the problem. I mean, that's the thing. If there's none available that have really good matchups, Goff had 21 last week.
Goff scares me, man.
Rivers has a pretty good matchup. He's playing Oakland. It's been one of the worst against quarterbacks, but he has struggled.
I've had him for 2 years, and he's killed it for me. But this year, man, he's just been ugh.
We don't know. Obviously, the other one a lot of other people are looking at is if Daniel Jones plays, he's against Washington, which hasn't been that great. They've been better, but it's not a great matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And
Derek Carr can put up numbers, but not normally.
Yeah, I think I like Wentz in a shootout game. I mean, they have to win, so they're gonna do whatever they can, and I think he did it this week. He scored you a lot of points the last quarter, so.
He did it. He did it the week before. Same thing.
Yeah.
By halftime, he had 60 yards or something, and then blew up for another 280 yards.
Winston's getting you 30 or 40 points in the first quarter. Wentz is getting all his in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that's a scary thing with him. It's just he's so up and down. But I mean, it's not his problem. There's so many injuries.
And I was just looking in our league. Defense is the best defense that's available. Based on projections, is the Jets, who are playing Pittsburgh, who really haven't done that much on offense. So,
and is Connor out?
I have not looked at Pittsburgh to see, but the thing is, their quarterback's throwing some interceptions. Yeah. You also have the Chiefs playing Chicago.
Chicago doesn't score a bunch of points.
The Falcons their defense scored 17 points last week. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars who haven't been able to do much. That's not a bad defense either. So there's 2 or 3 decent defenses out there. But that's back to my point. If I had 2 or 3 people on my bench that weren't keepers and I wasn't playing, I would pick up 2 or 3 defenses and not let my opponent have those. I'm not going to let even if I'm not going to play the Jets or the Chiefs, I'm not going to let my opponent play him either.
But I don't think Brody's going to drop his whole bench to pick up 3 defenses.
again, you would be amazed what Brody's not the smartest guy that plays fantasy, but at the same time, I want to win the Super Bowl. Even if it meant I had to drop keepers, I wouldn't care.
Really?
Oh, right.
You would drop good keepers for next year.
Well, it depends on what we consider good keepers.
Okay,
if they're keepers I'm starting, no, obviously them I'm not keeping. But if it's a matter of, do I keep, like right now, Brody has the Seahawks, which isn't, and that's the point. See, Brody has the Seahawks and they're playing Arizona. Arizona's been okay. That's kind of a mediocre kind of defense versus Arizona. He's not going to be hurt. He's probably, if I had to guess, Brody's probably not going to go after a defense. And if he did, he's probably going to go by projections and you pick up the Jets. If not, he's probably going to play Seattle. So I would agree. In that case, I'm probably not dropping a keeper because but again, if Brody was playing some team that was playing the number, if his defense was playing Kansas City this week, I'd pick up 4 defenses, I wouldn't let him have a defense. In this case, his defense is probably mediocre and he wouldn't be pressured to not play them over the other couple of choices. So in that case, I wouldn't drop a keeper. I would only drop keepers I would only drop questionable keepers and I would drop, again, if I'm not starting them and I'm not keeping them, I definitely would drop them. There's no reason. And if anything, I'll drop them for another keeper. If there's a keeper out there that I might keep in the 8th round or some rookie that didn't even play this year, I'd pick them up and put them on bench. If I know I'm not playing them and I know I'm not keeping them, then I'm either picking up defenses. I'll pick up an extra quarterback or in our league, we're not allowed to keep a quarterback, but what my point would be, I'm doing stuff to block and I
get that. I'm just saying you're not going to drop like a Terry McLaurin.
No, but
sometimes is on my bench.
But that's somebody who
why would you drop him when you get to keep him in the 16th? Well,
because here's my point. Here, anyone that plays a lot of fantasy will tell you, Super Bowls are rare that you get in them, and 2, they're very rare that you win them. My teams have been good all the time, and I've only won 1 in this league. So anyone will tell you, do whatever you can to win the Super Bowl this year, because I don't give a shit how good your 4 keepers are. Look at Clay. You can talk to Clay. Clay's had good keepers every year, and he doesn't get past the first round.
Yeah, but we've only been doing keepers for since I've been in the league, actually.
3 years.
The 2nd year.
But that's my point. You never know when you're going to get into the Super Bowl, so you got to do everything you can to win it. That would be my argument. Now, but like I said, looking at Brody's defense, you don't have to do. That's probably a gamble not worth doing because his defense is okay. You know what I'm saying? His kicker. He has a kicker problem. I wouldn't play a kicker in Seattle on the road. I would want a home kicker, and I'd want a kicker that's kicking in a dome. I'd want to have a kicker on an offense that's going to score more points than Arizona.
And see, that's to the point where I might get to next year is actually paying attention to like where the kickers are kicking. And I'm not to that level yet, but to me, that's even not that hard. It's back to defenses. I hardly ever play a defense that's on the road. And obviously the same thing. I always look for a warm weather kicker and I look for a kicker that's playing in a dome, and I do those kind of things. And if I get lucky and get a good kicker, I'll keep him. Otherwise I'll drop him and pick up one next week that's playing in a dome or in warm weather. No, that's what I've done this year is with kickers, especially, and defense is dropping them and picking up others, but Tampa Bay's has been pretty good. So I've kept him for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Right. And that's because Tampa Bay scoring a lot of points. Now, the problem is Tampa Bay is also scoring a lot of touchdowns. So you're getting the ones out of him instead of 3s and 4s.
True.
That's why I've always liked. Now, he struggled back in the day. It was Atlanta. Atlanta always had trouble scoring touchdowns. So it was always, for the last couple of years, Atlanta's kicker was, getting like 3 and 4 field goals a game. And then all of a sudden your kicker gets you 20 points.
Yeah, that's huge points.
When your kicker's getting 20 and theirs is getting 5, that's 15 points. You don't have to get somewhere. So
true.
And again, I know there's a lot of leagues out there that don't like kickers and don't like defenses and don't think you should even have them in fantasy, but I think it's just another fun part of the game. So, well, Like I said,
they're all a part of the game.
Exactly. And people say they're luck. Yeah, there's luck in everything. I mean, not luck. It's coincidence. I mean, again, what was the odds that Fournette and Derrick Henry were going to have bad weeks? But they did. No different than what's the odds of a kicker, getting 20 versus a kicker getting 3. You still have to, you have to play the game. You have to pay attention and go that route. So, well, what's the most exciting thing like I said, some people would say getting here's the fun part, because usually by the time you're in the Super Bowl, there's not much you can do with your lineup. Now, you do have a few extra good pieces on your bench, so you have some decisions, but really your main core is set, right? There's not a whole lot, it's like that thing. Now it's just a matter of you have to wait till the weekend.
Mainly I'm set. The thing that really screwed me was Godwin being questionable, because I was actually going to pull Bell. And I should have been pretty good on points. Now it's kind of up in the air, but yeah, for the most part, it's not even nothing worth messing with, except for defense. I got to figure out my defense, but.
Well, the good thing is he went out, didn't stop Winston, because you had both. The key is if you have Winston, if the quarterback and the wide receiver, a lot of times when the best wide receiver goes out, the quarterback struggles too. At least Winston kept throwing to other people.
No, well, and I've got Perriman as a backup.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. You do have Perriman, who I'm pretty sure that we know for sure Ridley and Evans.
He's in my lineup, so yeah. I'm sitting here. I could possibly have Ridley and Godwin on my IR, which you can't put 2 of them on there. But I'm not going to be able to play either one of them, and they've got me a ton of fantasy points this year.
You have good options. Well, here we have the Smasher.
The Smashers.
The Ho Smasher, who has smashed his last ho for the season.
Thank God, because I hate talking so much.
His season went, it was close, actually. I think, even Brody would say that Pittsburgh game, because of the defense that you had, was still in question. But congratulations on a good season, Ho, or at least a good second half of the season. And,
same thing. I got to give him props too. He has turned his team around and really made a hell of a run at it.
Well,
he actually scared me in week 1, and him and I both.
He kicked my ass in week 1.
We acknowledged that in week 1 that neither one of us wanted to play each other because that was too good of a team.
One of the
and too good of a matchup. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ho Smasher, sorry that you're like me. Your season in this league is over. My season's over. I think technically me and you play against each other in this want to be third place bowl or whatever. I'm pretty much going to beat you pretty bad in that, but that's, really doesn't matter a whole lot. But congratulations. And what was your thoughts as you watched your team, go down this weekend?
Well, it was a good season. First year in the league. It was very exciting. I loved all the trading, all the activity. I love the camaraderie, the trash talking. At the end of the day, I made some trades to make my team pretty strong. It's a huge bummer that it came down to starting the wrong defense. But
no, that was it. You'd have beat Brody by 20 if you'd have started Minnesota instead of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and who would have
Minnesota's defense? Your defense on your bench had like 37 points or something.
Really? I missed
43. That. Yeah, his defense had 43. If he'd have played
46,
them,
I think, actually.
Yeah. His defense decision, which I tweeted that day, that why did you pick Pittsburgh?
Holy shit! I never even saw that.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh has been doing great, and they got me 15 points. It just. Of course, 46 would have been a game changer, but
would have been. You'd be in the Super Bowl. You would make.
Holy cow!
That's the thing with Minnesota is they're so high and up, and I just went with the consistent option. I wasn't trying to get cute.
I know.
So it didn't work out. And you know who would have guessed that freaking Julian Edelman, who's been scoring 20 points a fucking week, would shit the bed against the Cincinnati Bungles of all teams. And
I know.
get 3
I could have
points.
used some points out of him through Tom Brady. I could have used a little help, but
Yeah.
that was an ugly game. And then their defense, that sucked when their defense keeps scoring. Then they don't do as much on offense.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm set up well. I didn't lose too many draft picks next year. I think really the biggest one was just the 6th rounder. Other than that, I got a pretty good bargain for my players. I've got some great keepers, and I think I'll be positioned to, as long as I draft wisely, to have a strong team next year. And the crazy thing is at the end of the day, the one thing I was worried about the most that cost me a loss going into the playoffs was my quarterbacks aren't very good. And at the end of the day, that's what cost me, was not having good enough quarterbacks, because Aaron Rodgers is a fucking bum and he tries to pretend to be elite, but really he's no better than a fucking bum. So if you're watching this podcast, do not waste a waiver spot on fucking shit Rodgers. That's my tip.
I'll probably draft him in the second or third round next year. Leave my Aaron
Never
Rodgers
again.
alone.
You do it every year and then trade him.
Leave my Aaron Rodgers alone. But
If I would have just played Derek Carr. So from now on, if I have to choose between Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr, I'm going with Carr.
All right.
Hey, Jimmy, and the funny thing I learned about that, and you hit on it right there, is the quarterbacks, except for number one, it's not as big a deal because most of them, even the bottom tier, you can get the same amount of points for the most part.
If their matchups are good, right?
Yeah.
If you play matchups and do all that. Now, especially in this league, our league is so competitive that, and I've learned that over the years, and people make fun of my team when I draft every year, but I draft to be consistent. I want my team to score 160 to 180 every week. I don't like those 90s. I don't like to be in 120. I don't necessarily need to be at 200, but I know if I get between 160 and 180, I'm going to be in the playoffs. I'm going to be competitive. I make a few moves. And again, if your team averages that every once in a while, they're going to score 200.
A few moves?
Well, I make a lot of moves, but my point is, it's like when I drafted Kelsey in number one this year, people make fun, but I knew Kelsey would be a consistent number one pick.
I don't think anybody made fun of that.
There's some
he
people
did pretty good for you this year.
And he did. There's a lot of number ones that didn't, but there are people that there's people out there that would say, I'll never draft the tight end number one ever, 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 because it's too hard to get running backs or too hard to get whatever. My point of drafting him number one this year was I wanted consistency out of that number one pick, and again, like this year, Barkley,
he provided it.
Barkley wasn't consistent at number one, a first rounder. Zeke Elliott wasn't consistent. Other than McCaffrey, Cook had been. Now Cook's hurt, but McCaffrey, Cook, this year in the first round, there's only a couple of people that I would
Michael Thomas
consistent. Michael Thomas, definitely a number one that was consistent.
I've been lucky the last 3 years. Most of my first rounds have been
consistent,
spot on. Yeah.
Even Hopkins, has been up and down. It's just, a lot of players this year.
I know Melvin Gordon's dropping to the third round for me next year.
What'd you say?
Melvin Gordon is not worth a first round pick.
I would agree. Well,
I agree too.
That depends on what team he's on next year. Melvin Gordon's not guaranteed to be on. He's only signed to 1 year. The odds are he'll be on.
He stays on that team. He isn't.
But if he's not, where's Eckler? Eckler could be a top.
So are we going to have a show, because I'm not as, like I said, up on some of the stuff as you guys are in the waiver and who's on for next year and their contracts? Are we going to have a little show on who is and who isn't before the draft?
Yeah, we've already talked. We're going to probably do a podcast. Obviously, my plan is to have a podcast next week where at least we talk to the winner, since Brody couldn't even show up this week, the pussy.
Hopefully.
But then I assume what we're going to do, I figure what we do is we take a few weeks off And then maybe we do a Super Bowl show where we come back and maybe the week of the real Super Bowl, we'll come on and do a show. Then the
That'd
same
be
thing.
fun.
Then we'll probably take a couple months off. And then maybe we'll do one a month because we'll start doing our meeting show. We'll start voting on if we want a dual commissioner. Do we want to change any of our rules? Do we want to, there's a lot of things that we'll do, I think, on the podcast now, because if we can get 7, 8, 9 guys on the podcast, we have majority votes. We can make votes and decisions right on the podcast. I think that'll be cool. Because we can make a discussion, we can talk about it. We can make a vote. And
like you said, I like this because I think it helps a lot of other leagues out.
Well, sure. Other people can listen. So
plus, I think we're a close enough group that we can talk about it. And
yeah.
I think
I got some exciting news at my work holiday party. Starting January 1st, my dealership is going to be closed every single Sunday.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
So
finally.
Now, did you have to work this Sunday? Because I was a little disappointed you were not in the chat room all day on Sunday.
Yeah.
In the semifinals.
Wheeling and dealing.
I hope you sold at least one car.
I didn't sell shit.
God damn it. Then you could have just, text, you could have been, pocket texting and still been involved. That sucks. So the dealership is closing on Sundays. You deserve a break. I'll give you that. But now, Ho, you've come a long way after, the way you started and all that. Did you learn a lot about fantasy playing in this league where it's a little more competitive and a little more involved than other leagues?
I wouldn't say I learned a whole lot about fantasy. I learned that, in certain leagues, you have to be a lot more diligent and paying attention. You can't just kind of coast through. Like in my other league, I'm in my 3rd consecutive Super Bowl. Last year, I lost to Kyle by 2 points, and the year before that, I won it. This year, I'm playing Reed in it. But in this league, it's much more competitive, and it's not something I can just draft wise and kind of coast through.
Right, because in our league, 12 people are picking up people off waivers, not just, I've been in leagues where half the people never picked one person off waivers the whole year. So obviously you have more to pick from, but in this league, everyone's paying attention. I shouldn't say everyone, obviously we had, and that's the problem. And I feel bad still for Garrett, but in a league like ours, one person not participating can ruin it for everybody. It just, you have to have 12 equal people that are all involved so that it,
Well, I still think it evened out. I mean, regardless of what he would have done, I don't think it would have changed much.
And Brackman did come in and do a lot. If anything, Brackman even stirred up the chat room a bunch.
But Kevin knows football really well. So that him coming in did help.
Right. So, I mean, I think we did the right thing. And again, I was one that even told Clay a few times, if you're talking to Garrett and Garrett wants to still be involved, then just tell him to, hey, then set your lineup.
Set your lineup. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you just, again, he wasn't obviously participating. And unfortunately, in a lot of leagues that happens, which luckily now being a keeper.
Yeah, I don't think ours is the only league that's happened in.
Well, no.
I think it happens in a lot of them.
In most, it happens with 2 or 3 guys. 2 or 3 guys lose a few games and they're not participating anymore. But
I think the addition of the toe ring was phenomenal, and nobody answered my question on the chat room. Who is in the league for the toe ring?
Well, I'm pretty sure the toe ring now. I think for sure now the toe ring is definitely.
Kyle secured it 100%.
Well,
does Kyle have it?
Yeah, he's 3-10, so he cannot. So yes, avoiding the toe ring with Brackman was the next closest. So we do have a toe ring participant in there, and then again, once we get a winner, I'll get with Jeff and we'll get the goblet and get the base and all that ordered, and
we already got the goblet,
huh?
You already got the goblet, right?
Well, but I'm going to have Jeff figure out how to mount it or how to do something where it'll sit down on the base. But
so are we going to put past winners on that?
Yes, we are going to have the past winners' names engraved on the bottom, on the base.
Just little plaques or whatever.
The front will say the League of Anarchy Fantasy Football.
You know what? If I win, I'll pay I'll pay to have that done. That's fine.
And then the sides will have the names of the past winners and what year they won. And then, the
unless it's I was going to say unless it's Brody, but he hadn't won, right?
No, Brody's never won.
Okay, so then I don't have to worry about it.
Zach's name will go on twice. My name will go on once.
You can pay for your own.
Chase Martin's name will go on there. Brackman's name will be on there.
Chase Martin won?
Chase Martin won 1 year.
Which I don't know who that is.
Chase Martin. Chase Martin won. He had the worst draft in the world.
Did you guys all just give up or?
No. This is what happened. He drafted, this would have been 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Had to have been.
He drafted like 4 Jets. And we were all going, that is the stupidest thing in the world. Now, Jim, you're laughing, but that's the year that Fitzpatrick went off. He was throwing, I'm trying to think who the wide receivers were that year. But Fitzpatrick was his quarterback and was getting him like 35 points.
Fitzmagic.
Yeah.
You gotta love Fitz. Right now I love him this year.
Okay, well, you guys
but isn't he fun to watch? If you look at him, he's always smiling. If he throws an interception or throws one in the ground, he's smiling. He's got that big old beard. He looks like Adam Martin.
Well, he has that I don't care attitude. If I throw an interception, who cares? I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
Let me look here. League history. What year did Chase Martin win this damn thing? Well, here's the winners. Obviously, show me your TD. That was Reed. I got Smallwood with Zach. I won it then before that. Chase Martin won it in 2015. Let me see if it'll bring up his team. Yes, he had Fitzpatrick, Jeremy Hill. Do you remember Jeremy Hill with the Bengals? That was a great year for him. He had Giovanni Bernard, who was a starter. He had Julio Jones, Brandon Marshall with the New York Jets, and Eric Decker. Those 2 idiots went nuts every fucking week with Fitzpatrick. Decker, Marshall, and Fitzpatrick went off constantly. So that was it. And D'Angelo Williams, that was the year he had a great year with Pittsburgh because Bell got hurt. So Chase Martin's just walked into he drafted horrible and it all worked out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Fitzpatrick.
But it's a lot of luck. I picked up Parker on
Julio Jones had 425 points for him that year. Brandon Marshall had 400. Decker had 360. I mean,
Eric Decker's garbage.
What?
Eric Decker sucks. And
he was in his prime. That was when he was a Pro Bowler.
Didn't the Jets go 6-10
that year? I don't know. Clue. I just know Fitzpatrick and Decker and Marshall went off every fucking week.
Damn.
And then he had Julio Jones. That was his best year. 425 points. That's ridiculous. And like I said, D'Angelo Williams came on, still scored 300, and he didn't play the first 3 or 4 weeks before Bell got hurt. So, yeah, he just waltzed right through the damn. Oh, and he had Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates was actually a decent player a few years back. So, that's who Chase Martin's won with. It's kind of fun to see. I'm kind of curious to see how far back we go. I'm curious who Zach won in year 13. Compton Butter Muffins was the name of Zach's team. I have no clue what any of that means. Okay, it's too far that back far. It doesn't even come up with who was on Zach's team. I was kind of curious who Zach won with. Jose Mustachius. Who the hell's that? This was Brackman's team. He had Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Le'Veon Bell, Dez Bryant, Doug Baldwin, Rob Gronkowski, Lamar Miller. Not a bad team back then. So
have you guys ever figured out how many years this league's been together?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It goes back. The history is on the website. It goes back.
How many years?
The very week 13 or 2013, Zach was the first winner. 14 was Brackman. year 15 or year 3 was Chase Martin's.
So this is year 7.
Year 2016, year 4, I won. Zach won again in 2017. That's 5. And then last year, Reed won. Kyle won. That's 6. So this is year 7.
Year 7. Okay.
7th season. So, that's where we are. Well, we stuck it out a whole hour. Brody never showed up. That big pussy. And Host Smasher, make sure you set your lineup because I am going to try to beat you. I'm going to pay attention.
We still got a rubber match.
I know because we are 1-1. You barely beat me. No, you beat me pretty good in week 1, and I beat you pretty good the next week.
I'll beat you pretty good this week too.
No, my team's tough. My team is awesome.
Hold on.
You and Brody both should be thankful that me and Mega weren't in your bracket, or neither one of you would be in the Super Bowl because we both scored over 200. You guys, you two actually would have lost from a lot of people this week. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, my team shit.
Huh?
I just want to put it out there to all the Smasher fans out there. I just want to apologize for that terrible performance. Next year, I promise better performance in the clutch.
From the Smasher fans.
Yep.
All those little Smashers out there. I'm excited. Aren't you guys ready to draft already?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Get next year.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself this offseason, honestly.
Well, I'll be playing fantasy baseball. None of you guys are able to do that because everyone's wimpy. It's too hard. But here's my point. Playing fantasy baseball will make you a better fantasy football player. People don't, they don't see that, but
I don't know enough about baseball. Though.
But that's the point. Baseball is so much more about numbers than players that you learn to pay attention to stats and stuff. So that then when you get back into football, you quickly go, okay, don't think of the names, look at the numbers, because we can say what we want, but fantasy is still about numbers, not names. So it's one of those things where it just makes you look at different things. In baseball, it is all about, you can get the guys that get you 50 home runs every year, and that's a name, but they also have the numbers because you're not going to win in baseball if your guys aren't producing, period, because they're playing 6 days a week. There's no hiding somebody or whatever. So, if someone's producing that doesn't have a name, you are always looking at percentages and numbers. So, it makes it fun. All right. Host Smasher, good luck this week. I'm setting my lineup. I'm going to go out on top. I definitely want my name on the 3rd place ring up here, not the 4th place.
Now, hold on before we get off.
It doesn't even show the 4th place ring.
Before we get off, who are you guys picking?
Who am I picking, or who do I want to
Well, I mean.
Okay, pick, and who do you want to win? I don't care. Either one.
Who do you think will win, Host Smasher, and who do you want to win?
Well, both of them are the same, and that is Magel.
All right. I think it would have been closer if Cook wasn't hurt. I don't think Cook plays this week since Minnesota is clinched. Without Cook, Brody's team is definitely just average. Cook was getting him big points every week, so it would cover up some of those weaknesses that he had. Magel's right now's lineup top to bottom is pretty solid. So I'm going to I would say Magel's team right now is more on a roll. That's who. Now, me, I can talk shit about either one of them. I really, who I want to win or not want to win, I really don't. I mean, to say I don't care would not be right. Whoever loses, I'm going to give shit to, and whoever wins, I'm going to disrespect also. So it doesn't matter because, that's just the way I am. I mean, I know I had the best team, and I just, Magel was on a hot streak. I already gave Magel props. Magel beat me fair and fucking square. I mean,
twice.
I scored 209. I got beat by someone who scored 245, 247.
Say twice. I beat you twice.
Beat me twice.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all right. I can handle it. But I don't even, and Brody always makes fun of that. See, during the season, this league, the strategy is a little different. We let 8 people in the playoffs. I want to be in the playoffs with a good team. I don't need to win every week. I will sacrifice a win. I didn't play a kicker a couple times because it didn't matter if I won or lost that week, and I wasn't going to drop a player I wanted to keep. I mean, I do those things. So I don't worry necessarily, actually the worst loss I took, I think all year was week 1, because I really thought my team drafted pretty well and I'd be okay. And I scored 160, and Host Smasher scored like 187 or 189. That was his best score till like week 9. After you scored 180 or something in that game, you could barely get to 150 after that. So I don't know what happened to my team week 1, but after that, I play other strategies more than just win every week. Do I want to win every week? Sure. But I don't want to get in the playoffs with a shitty team like Brody. I want to come into it with something, halfway decent. So even though it didn't pay off this year. So Bagel, who are you pulling for?
Obviously myself.
That's what I said. Brody is so shit. Brody is so worried about losing. He couldn't come on tonight. He knows his team is shit.
I just want to say, how shitty is it that no one else is on this podcast right now?
Well, I've done this enough to know that as the season, as people dropped out.
Where is fucking Zach tonight?
Even pay attention to the chat room. Even the chat room is
there hadn't been nothing up there. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're out. I mean, even now it's back to Clay had a baby, so I'm going to give him that excuse. But even for the commissioner not to come on this week, at least for 10 minutes and say, hey, congratulations, good luck. But I get it. He had a baby and he's young, and it's his first baby. He doesn't understand that you can make more. So
no, it's ridiculous. I'm lucky to get a text back within 24 hours. So exactly. It's the first baby.
Oh, I mean, I know I've been there.
No,
I mean, it's it's their first baby, but they still won't listen to anyone who's had 3 of them.
Oh yeah. They
still will,
oh, you guys, yeah, whatever. And he's doing this, and we're like, that's why he's doing this, and they're like,
yeah, but I better call the pediatrician.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, whatever. No.
Yeah,
and that's why we just let it go. And
I googled it somewhere. Whatever.
I get that.
Baby,
you're not even a grandpa yet, are you?
No, thank God.
Wow.
We got a grand puppy. That's it.
And how many years? How many years younger? How many years younger are you than me?
Younger? I'm not. I don't think younger. I'm older.
Yeah. My
boss is 2 years older than me, and he's a great grandfather. So I'm like, Jesus. So he gets fun when I call him that. He gets,
I'm 47 and I'm a grandpa.
Yep. I'm 57 and I'm
Jesus.
I'm 57. I'm a podcaster. Yeah.
You're a multiple podcaster.
My kids are. I don't know. We always
worry about that.
Zach has been a hoe for a long time.
Yeah, I said that too, Host Smasher.
Yeah,
when I was 29. Yeah.
You guys are terrible. No, I'll be one of these days, maybe.
And if your name's a Host Smasher, then you're probably tempting fate there.
Oh no, I got snipped at 18. I'm good.
There you go. Guys, it's been fun. No one's gonna listen to this one. Math Quest, who was out there asking us questions.
Actually, one of the guys that I work with was jumping on tonight to listen to it.
TJ come up to me and said, I was talking to somebody and they said, hey, I listened to you guys on that podcast. So I'm like, I don't think Lou was doing something. I never talked to him the last week or two. The number's a little bit down. I don't think we ever made 100. So our goal next year is definitely get over 100. We'll get 100 listeners next year. We'll get up there. We'll be bigger, better, badder. Like I said, I plan on doing this at least one more week. I think the Super Bowl champ deserves to come on and unless it's Brody wins it, we're just not going to have a podcast. He can't show up anyway. But I plan on doing one next week to congratulate. And then, like I said, my goal then would be do one the week of the Super Bowl, the real Super Bowl, so we can talk real football. I know people that listen to this might not know, but we actually have some people in this league that know football. So we'll talk about football, and then we'll probably take a few months off and come back. And like I said, we might as well, I think we should podcast our shows where we do our meetings and shit, see what happens. And, we'll get the league up and running. And I think that'll help get us ready for next year. We'll set our dates for the draft.
I think it'll make it a better season because this year with everybody jumping on here, myself included, getting into this and actually doing this, I think it'll make it better for next year.
Yeah.
I really do.
I agree.
I think we should have as many podcasts as possible. And also, I think next year there should be a little bit more focus on just fantasy football talk in general, and maybe not so much focused on our particular league. Main reason being just to keep those that may not be in the playoffs, still interested and involved.
Two things about that.
Maybe have a $1 fine.
We did talk a lot of football on the first, 4 or 5 of the podcasts. But then, to be honest, a few other people I talk to that do other shows and all that, here's the problem. If you type in the word fantasy football in any podcasting thing and you look for shows, there's a zillion shows out there with experts telling you all kinds of shit about football and running backs and who to start and who to. But I got to be honest, there's only a handful where you can log on and listen to them bitch about their rules, kick out a player, vote in a new player. I mean, and some of that, and I had multiple people text me, go, hey, I enjoy listening to your guys' podcast because your league's going through the same shit we're going through. We thought it was just us. I mean, so Jim, I know what you're saying, but at the same time, I like the idea of giving people something different, because here's what we did this for us anyway. This podcast is for 12 fucking people. And that's what to me is the most important, is that the 12 of us communicate. If it's entertaining enough that we get 100 people to listen, I think that's perfect. That's good. But you know what I'm saying? You can't do both, so I think we just need to come on here and come on as a league, and it's our league show. Talk what needs to be talked about. And if there's nothing to be talked about, then we can talk football. We can talk, because I think when you start talking trades on the podcast and things like that, you're talking players there anyway. Even when we were talking about our teams and the podcast, you're still talking players, or, a couple times when trades got talked about when people didn't think they were fair. The reason they're not fair is people put different values on those players, and we start talking about that. So someone else is learning something. So, that's my point. This podcast was really only started for the 12 of us.
That's what I like, because it's, you know what? Fuck you. You don't like my idea? Fuck off.
Right. Well,
it's not just football bullshit. It's, hey, here's what leagues actually are. People have disagreements. Hey, bring them up on the podcast. You guys want to have a real league, have a podcast about it, or sit there and talk about it and say, fuck you, I don't agree with you. Right. And that argument or that debate to me has got to be entertaining for someone else. Obviously it is, because people are kind of listening. Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's a million podcasts out there where you can find out, should you start Fournette or Bell this week? There's a bunch of them. I mean, there is. Now, we mixed it in when we needed to or had nothing else. But once we got into where we had some issues, I thought the stuff was entertaining. Yeah. So
it was. I mean, my main reasoning is just like, I can't sell cars forever. Eventually, I'm just going to need that big ESPN podcast.
I got you. I see. This is a stepping stone for you to the big four. I got you. Okay, Jim. Next year we will. We'll make sure to push you a little more, and your knowledge. I'll put in a segment, ask the Smasher, and oh
my God, that's a perfect fucking name.
Ask the Smasher, and we'll have a quick 10-minute segment where we'll have some random question, and I'll make sure it's a football question. We'll let the Smasher,
or it could be about pizza.
Or it could be about pizza.
I'll answer it while eating pizza.
There you go. All right, guys, this was still fun. And that's, when I told that somebody today, I do 4 of these shows a week. All day long, I dread doing them. I know that sounds odd. It's not that. It's just I worry about, do I have enough information? Will we fill an hour? Do I have to do this? I know I got to get the podcast set up. But once the show starts, I have a blast. The hour of doing it, is fun.
You said that before we even started. You're like, well, we got 10 minutes of stuff to talk about. Even before Host Smasher came on, it was we sat there and talked for a half hour.
Yeah, I know. I can talk to anybody. But it was you, Megal. That was easy. I could talk to an hour even with Jim, and Jim hates me. So
you could talk to yourself for an hour.
Me and Jim could fill an hour.
You could talk to yourself for an hour.
Easy and the Smasher. Maybe that'll be our show next year. We'll just have our own podcast, me and Jim. the easy kill and the smasher. And,
Hey, how do you change your name on here?
When you first log in, it'll ask you what you can change it. It'll default to the same one every time. But when you first log in next week, you'll see a thing down there where you'll see where it says Clint Magel. Just go down to there and back it up and put 2019.
Well, Kevin put a new name in for me. And
you can do it every week. You can change it. Kevin changes, I think, every week. So, all right, Jim, good luck. I'm going to kick your ass. Magel, you're the only one here, so I'm rooting for you. Good luck next week. And definitely, because I think you'll enjoy being the champion, but I think Brody won't shut up if he's the champion.
Oh, he won't.
That's what we're all regretting, that Brody's not a champion and won't shut up.
It'll be all here.
And even if it's the only Super Bowl he ever wins, we'll still hear about it 20 years from now.
All I will want everybody to do is just meet at Skipper's, have a beer, and
you can have, and you'll have the goblet.
Yeah.
January 1st, I'm off every Sunday.
Sweet. We'll meet up there then.
We'll bring the goblet.
Maybe for the Super Bowl, we'll meet up at Skipper's, have a beer, and we'll have to see how quickly Jeff can get us something made, and we'll just actually present it. We'll have like a Skipper's night. We'll present it at Skipper's and fill that goblet with some bud. Works
or whatever else you want. Zach says rum and Coke. I don't
know though. What's going to be worse, hearing Brody talk about 3-time Super Bowl appearances or him winning?
Both. Brody sucks either way.
Him winning will be worse.
Yes, it will.
Hold on, Mark. Is Zach there?
No, these are his girlfriends.
Oh, you just said something about Zach. I thought he was maybe whispering in your ear or something.
No, he's not. He's a big sissy. When she comes home from school, I don't see him that much. He's got to fill those 3 or 4 weeks, being without her. She was just home like for Thanksgiving.
3 or 4 holes.
Amen. You're right. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on. Good luck, everybody. Everybody else that listens to us, if you're in the Super Bowl, good luck. Next week, come in the chat room and let us know. Math Quest, who was in here tonight, let us know if you win. See if me and Magel gave you good advice on your starting lineup. So, guys, say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan Podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.